Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make these goddess style macrame bracelets. This is how they look up close. So you can see the effect is like a zigzag effect. So if you want to learn how to make these, then please keep watching. These are the things that you're going to need. You first of all need a scissor, because you obviously need to be able to cut your cord. Then the actual cord that you're going to be using. In this case I'm just using some 2mm satin cord in black. It can be whatever cord you like to use. And then you need your beads. I just got some glass beads here. And then I have 2 silver coloured stardust beads just to finish it off at the end. You can easily use the same beads that you use for the main bracelet. That's completely your choice. And then you just need some glue to finish it off as well. So get your things ready and then let's get started. Now the first thing you're going to need is get 2 lengths of your cord ready. This is going to be your holding cords. They need to be 2 separate cords, so just cut them. Cut one long, fold it in half and cut that in half. Now if you're working with macrame board, all you do is just attach this to the notches. Just make sure you have left a fair bit of space behind you, because you're going to need that at the end. Now fasten it at the bottom as well. If you don't have a macrame board, that's fine. You can just use tape, clips, anything you can think of just to hold the cords tight while you're working with them. So just for now, we've just attached this to the board. You now want to get your working cord out. I don't have a specific length for this, but because it all depends on the size of your beads, on the length of your bracelet, but I would say just take a length, take maybe 1 meter. If you're in doubt, rather add a bit more, because you don't want to run out in the middle of it and have to start over. So it all depends. All you can do is try. So get that. That's 1 length of cord. You fold it in half so you have a loop in one end, which is then the middle of that cord. In my case, this cord, my working cord, is a bit thicker than these. I would, if it's possible, I will use the same both as the holding cord and the working cords, but sometimes the beads you get, the holes aren't big enough, so you just use some thinner cord that matches. You're not going to notice that much really anyway. So you get one end of your working cord, take it underneath your 2 holding cords, and then get about the middle of your working cord to go behind. Now what you want to start doing now is some square knots. This is really simple. All you take is you take a cord coming out from one side. Doesn't matter what side you start with. That's completely what's most comfortable for you. You then take the other side of the other cord, put it over this cord, and then take it underneath both that and your 2 middle holding cords. And then as it comes out, you'll make sure to pull it through the loop that you created on the other side. So as you tighten it, it will create a knot on your holding cords. You now repeat the same thing, except you do it opposite. So you start with the other side and then take your cord underneath and pull it through, and then you tighten it. Now this is 1 full square knot. Repeat. Do the same thing again. Remember to move back to the other side. Move to the other side when you're then doing the other half of the knot. And now you have 2 full square knots. So you can choose to make however many knots you want. This is just the beginning part of the bracelet, so before you start adding the beads. So whatever you feel like, that's up to you. I think I'm going to make one more before I then start adding my beads. And there you go. Now I have 3 square knots to begin with. A little tip before we move on is, if you're ever in doubt where you are, like what side to do next because you can't remember what side you just did, just see which side your cord is coming out from underneath, because as you can tell, on one side it's coming out from the top and on one it's coming out underneath. The side where it's coming out underneath is the side where you want to start next. So mine is coming out from the left side, so I would therefore then start with that cord to make a square knot. So that's just a little tip. Now you want to undo your cord again at the bottom, because you now want to add your beads. You can do this to begin with, it's just, I find it easier just to do the beginning first without worrying about there being beads. So all you do is you get all your beads. Again, depends how many you want to use. That depends all on the size of the beads, how long you want the bracelet. There's no set amount for this. But what you want to make sure to do is you have an even amount of beads and you want equal amounts on each cord. So thread them on and then I'll show you the next step. So I've now threaded on all my beads. Now you want to just fasten the bottom cords again, because you want to start working with them again. Now to make the zigzag effect, it's really simple, to be honest. The only thing is you just gotta try and keep it in place, but it'll work itself out. So I normally start with the right thread. You're not doing any more square knots for now. All you're doing is, first I just take it underneath to the other side where it's coming out. Pull that a bit tight, and then I take up one bead. I then wrap it back around over the top and then back underneath. So this is basically what you'll be doing. All you'll be doing is wrapping around and gradually adding beads. So now, instead of adding one bead, you take the next 2. And as you'll see, they'll lay kind of not right side by side, but a bit off from each other. So again, take the same cord. You're working with the same cord all the way down, and then afterwards you're taking the other cord. So take it, wrap it around again, just put it over the top, and then pull it back underneath. And then tighten that. And as you can see, it's starting to wrap around the beads now. Take the next 2, continue, next 2, over the top, and then back underneath. Now what I suggest is, instead of putting a certain amount of beads on, because you don't really know how long it's going to be until as you go with it, unless you've obviously done it the exact same one before. So just put a fair few beads on, because you don't necessarily have to use them all. Make sure the beads are in the right position when you tighten it. Push them up, back around, and tighten. Sometimes you'll find that it'll get a bit loose further back. Just try and keep it tight as you go. Otherwise, just go back and tighten it, and then tighten it all the way down. Next beads. Back around again. We'll do a few more. I think that's going to be pretty good like that. So I'll leave it at that and then save the rest of the beads and just take them off at the end. So now you want to move back to the top and you want to start working with the other card. As you can probably guess, this will be wrapping around as well, but the other way, so you're basically going to be filling in the gaps. First thing I do is take it underneath to pull it to the other side and make sure it stays above all the beads. Wrap it back around, still above the beads. This is just to fill in the little space. Back around underneath. And you'll probably find as you do in this part, what you did before will become a bit loose, but just tighten it as you go. You're now on this side, so you wrap it back around. Make sure you grab the next space, put it underneath, pull it, and as you're pulling it tight, make sure it goes in the right space, the next empty gap. And now you're beginning to form zigzag, connected zigzag pattern. Back around. Just all you do is you keep wrapping. And you'll probably find that the other cord might start to get a bit loose. You just tighten that as you go. Because you haven't fastened any cords yet, so you'll be doing that once you hit the bottom with both cords. Tighten that a bit. Wrap it around. Back around the bottom. Tighten it again. Make sure you don't skip a space. We're almost at the bottom with this cord as well. One last wrap and take it back underneath, And there you go. And then before you continue, just make sure everything is tight, just how you want it to be. Otherwise, go back up and tighten a bit. So you're now back to having one cord coming out on each side. And make sure that at the bottom you wrapped it around an extra time. So all you do now is go back to making your square knots. And ideally, you want to continue with the same side that you were doing. Start with the same side that you were doing up here. So we just take one side, put it over, put the other one under, and pull it through the loop. You see, I've not used all my beads. I've just put on an amount, and then you see as you go how long you want it to be. The second half of the square knot. And all you want to make sure is you do an equal amount of square knots on the bottom as you did at the top, just so it's even. Obviously you don't have to if you don't want to, but it's just a suggestion. And I made 3 at the top, so I'm going to make 3 at the bottom. I'm on my last one. And the other half of it. There you go. What I'll just do is remove these beads. That's the good thing about the macrame board. It's easy to take the cords on and off as you're working with it. But now all you want to do is then get your glue. In my case, I'm using a glue that's called Hypo cement. It's really good for jewelry making in general. I use it for a lot of different things, but I especially like to use it for finishing off macrame work like this, because especially as well it has a very fine tip, unlike most glues. So all you do is you dab glue on the ends, because you now want to be able to cut these cords off. Make sure you put the glue in the well that you created by making the knots. And you do this on both sides, both the back and the front, because you don't want your knots and your cords to come undone once you cut them off, because that will have been a waste of work and a real shame. So just glue it nicely till you feel it's going to be secure. And then normally you would just let the glue dry before cutting it off, but I'm just going to show you. And cut your cords off as close to the knot as you possibly can without cutting the actual knot, because you don't want to risk it cutting it so it's going to come undone. And then that's basically that end finished off. So you can now take it off the macrame board or whatever else you're using to fasten it. And this is now the main part of your bracelet finished. Looks pretty much exactly the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter what side you use. To finish it off, what you do now is fold it over, so you're creating the bracelet shape now, like this. So you have these cords, your end cords, coming against each other. And you grab a spare piece of your main cord, whether it's just maybe the scrap ends that you just cut off if they're long enough, if not just cut a little extra piece. You put the middle of that behind all these cords, and all you do now is continue to make square knots. If you want to, you can use some clips or something to hold these cords together, at least for the first knot, because the first knot is the most difficult one. But and this is how you make the adjustable part of it. You make as many of these knots to create the lock as you want. I normally like making about 6. I think that's a pretty good average. It's not too many, it's not too few, because if you make too few, it can be a bit flimsy. But obviously there's no need to make too many either. So just continue with that. So you've now finished making however many knots that you want to make. Now you do the same thing you did before, get your glue out, fill up the well, so you'll be able to cut the ends off. Only thing you want to be careful when it's the lock part is you don't want to get the glue down and touching these holding cords, because you want them to be able to move, obviously, so you can take the bracelet on and off. So you glue that. Let it dry, cut off the ends. And then you are left with an almost finished bracelet. Now I like to just pull this tight, just to make sure, first of all, that they can move. Second of all, for the next part, because now you just want to put beads on these cords to stop them from going all the way through, because otherwise you'll just be able to pull them out and then you won't really have a bracelet anymore. So all I do is one cord at a time. I just make a simple knot. Decide how long I want these to be. They don't need to be very long at all, just whatever length that you're going to feel comfortable with. Take the next one, do the same thing. Just a completely regular knot. Try and get them to about the same point. Equal length. If you want to, you can measure it, but I normally don't. I just do it by eye. Over on the side. Get them to approximately the same length. Tighten the knot really tight. And the last cord. Do a knot and bring it down to the length of the other one and tighten that really tight. So now you get whatever beads you decide to use. In this case I'm using the silver coloured stardust beads. You just put that on after you made your knot. If I can get it on, that is. There we go. And now all you do is tie the exact same knot, just a regular knot, on the other side of the bead. Push it down to the other side of the bead, tighten that really good. Get it as close to the bead as you can. And I always make a second knot on top of that. Not above that, but actually on top of it. So it pretty much becomes a double knot. and tighten it really good. And then I usually put a bit of glue on the knot as well, and then cut off the end. Just this extra reassurance. Do that with all the other ones, and then your bracelet will be finished. So that's basically it now. Your bracelet is done. You have this zigzag effect on it, known as the Goddess Bracelet. So please feel free to give that a try yourself. Come up with your own design, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.